A nonprofit in Norfolk that sends Malawian teenagers to Nebraska colleges has led some college leaders and host parents to say they're fed up. Luke Stera spoke with Natalia Alamdari of the Flatwater Free Press about this story and what she found in her research.
Well, we're joined now by Natalia Alamdari to kind of talk about the relationship between Norfolk and Malawi. So what did you discover regarding Norfolk schools in Malawi?
Sure. So someone had reached out to me a couple months ago. They just had concerns about this nonprofit that's existed in Norfolk for a couple years now. Basically, the premise is there's a school in Malawi founded by Joe Matika, who is from Malawi but lives in Norfolk. And so the kind of premise of the school is you're able to get an American education, take your ACTs, like they put you on that path to being able to go to school in the US for your college education. And so that's been going on since about 2017, I think, is when the first group of students arrived. But the main concern that folks had when they were talking to me was students arrive in Norfolk and they are very unprepared for what life is going to look like, whether in the sense of the tuition they're going to need to be paying, their housing situation, whether or not they have scholarships, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, and one of the terms that was used in the article was they kind of described the program as a bait and switch. So why did some of the involved parties use that type of terminology to describe this program?
Bait and switch kind of comes into play with this idea of you're a student, you're in Malawi, you're maybe 17, 18, and in some cases these kids were as young as 16. But that bait and switch really comes into play when students arrive and they think, oh, I have a host family or a sponsor is going to be paying for my tuition, and then that ends up not being the case. So one student in this meeting that was held a couple months ago had really described it as like, it's not that I feel entitled to this or anything like that. It's more so that if I had been able to have set expectations, that would have given me a better view of what do I need to be expecting as far as working, savings, all that sort of thing. As far as response from the nonprofit, so when I spoke with Dr. Matiko, who runs the whole program, he had really said his point of view was, this is all miscommunication. If you say scholarship in Malawi, that is going to mean something differently to a Malawian than to a American English speaker. And he was really saying, like, this is just a misinterpretation. Like, people are hearing scholarship and they're thinking it means full ride when it doesn't necessarily mean that. What he said is that his plan moving forward is with future groups of students who are graduating from Norfolk schools in Malawi is to make sure that they have, everything outlined, written on paper, so that parents and students understand, these are the financial commitments you're making. This is what you need to expect as far as tuition, housing, what assistance you may or may not be getting, just so that people don't have an idea of something in their heads. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world, I think in the top 10 with that metric. So to pay for college is something that's very difficult for families. They're coming into not only are they landing in a new place, they're also navigating a higher education system that they might not necessarily be familiar with.
A lot to unpack, and it's a great read on the Flatwater Free Press's website. Natalia, thank you for joining us here on NCAD.
Yeah, thank you for having me.